think one element that adults will really enjoy is that your Harold's having a bit of a existential crisis here. He's like, "Why did you draw me? Why am I alive? What's going on here?" How is it playing up that element? Because it's a really fascinating place to take the film.
It was actually one of the things that attracted me to the project to begin with, because when you boil it down, it really is kind of like man's search for meaning, man's search or his understanding of God. Because the narrator is Harold's God. It's like, you gave me life, you brought me to life, you've given me this world, and now you've gone away, and I don't know what to do, and I'm lost in all of this. And so to take a children's family movie, but have there's like that deeper kind of stuff in there, I think it's really important because it gives it more credence. It gives it more meaning. It gives it something that's not just a throwaway kind of like, okay, it's just, because it's a very silly film. So it grounds it a little bit in that. And then to be able to give Harold that extra little bit of 3D as he's coming into this 3-dimensional world, right? He's not just now 3-dimensionally physically, he's learning emotions that make him more 3-dimensional. And I think that's a big part of that journey.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I was really curious because you have the purple crayon in this movie. You're actually drawing in the film. Is that tricky? Because you have to draw shapes that like resemble what's gonna pop up with the CGI. So how's that? How was that?
Bro, it was one of my favorite parts of the movie because it was such an interesting and unique challenge. Essentially, with a lot, but not all of the elements or objects that I drew, we would have some wireframe. Right. So like there was a good, not all of the plane, but a good piece of the plane or, a bit of the plane that was a wireframe version of itself. And so for rehearsal, I would trace what that was and I would follow those lines. And then we would take the whole thing out. And then I just had to remember from muscle memory how large any of those proportions were and how those lines worked. And to their credit, our visual effects team did an incredible job of helping me to find those lines and then them painting them all in post. And it's seamless. I mean, it's really cool how well it all worked together.
Yeah, it really turns out really well. That's really impressive. And I was really curious. You work with Germain Clement here, who's the villain. He is just so hilarious in this, and I'm a big fan of his. What really stood out about working opposite him and going back and forth, because there's quite a bit of humorous moments here.
Oh man, I mean, I'm just a big Jermaine fan. I was super stoked when he took on the role. Been a fan of his since Flight of the Conchords way back in the day. And he's a really lovely guy, very chill, very funny. Came to work every day and just wanted to, be creative. And that's really all you can hope for.
And the final fight between you two is so imaginative because you're both using the crayon pieces and drawing all these crazy things. How was it actually filming that?
It was really interesting, man. That whole last sequence was like basically, I feel like it was like an entire week of night shoots out at this park in Atlanta. And just, all of those big elements of catapult and things that, we had some physical elements that we could actually props and stuff, but a lot of it was just imagination. And again, like, what was it like to, imagining to myself as I'm doing it, like, okay, I got to draw a giant spring around me. Well, what is that? And like, spinning around in this whirlwind of a whirling dervish. But just believing that whatever I'm doing, as long as they're seeing it and they're going, yeah, that'll work, that'll do. And then all the, the lava and the magma and all of these things that you just have to use your, very similar to Harold using his imagination and creativity. You're just having to imagine that for yourself. And so it's a fun exercise. I like it because it kind of keeps that fresh in you.
Yeah, that's so perfect that you had to use your imagination in this film, very much about imagination. And there's a similar boy-like wonder between Harold and Shazam, who you very famously played. What would you say is the biggest difference between these roles?
Yeah, there is definitely some Venn diagram crossover in the two of them. I would say that the biggest difference is that Shazam, Billy Batson, he's a real teenager in the real world who's dealt with lots of loss, lots of anger, lots of sadness, lots of pain. He's young and immature in the way he handles certain things, and certainly in his super self, because he's like, his immaturity gets almost amplified in his super self because now he's got superpowers and he's like trying to, fight bad guys and save the world, but he's still learning how to use all of that. But he does understand the pain and the sadness and the things and those types of things. Whereas Harold is not a teenager. He's actually a grown man, right? But from his animated world that has no pain, no suffering, no real sadness or anger or any, no consequences, no real stakes. Everything is fun. Everything's optimism. But then going into the real world, now he really is this fish out of water. And it's not, his immaturity is not because of his age as much of his complete lack of experience of dealing with any of these types of three-dimensional emotions. And so that's the biggest thing. I, in playing Billy Batson, could tap into anger and sadness in a more authentic way. Whereas playing Harold, he had no idea what any of that was. He's getting hurt, literally physically hurt for the first time. He's like, what is this thing? What am I feeling right now? Having no idea what these social cues are, people being angry with him and honking their horns while he's blocking traffic, and he thinks they're just saying hi. That is a big difference between the two characters.